6:35, we have a request for a waiver of site plan at 110 Brookfield Road, Cruise Control Transportation. The applicant is requesting a waiver of site plan to add towing and storage of vehicles with no changes to the existing parking lot layout or design of the existing operation. After that, we'll have the town planner update, then old and new business, and then adjournment. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of July 12th? Do you have any questions or comments? If not, we'll have a motion then to approve as submitted. So moved. Dane and Wally, second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye, and I abstain. Oh, and Jeff also votes yes. I think we're supposed to have, are we supposed to have a voice vote when we have one remote?
At least Jeff has to do a
Okay.
voice vote, but Jeff, did you vote yes?
Voted yes, yep.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
great.
you.
Perfect. Okay. You want to start your updates since it isn't quite 6:35? It's not a public hearing.
So the next meeting will be August 9th, and we'll have a public hearing for Verizon. They're putting a small wireless attachment to the utility pole over by Dorico's and Local Routes, and so we'll have a public hearing for that. And then I'm working with the owners of the, I still always will call it the Shaw's Plaza. So they have another retailer going in, but that final space, other than the storage office space in the rear, they're actually working with a potential Mexican restaurant to go into that location. I question the numbers, and I think they need to come back to the board because you approved it with all retail. So I asked them to do another ITE study, and they submitted some preliminary information to me today. It looks pretty good. However, I think it needs to come back to you. So I'll work with them to get that on August 9th as well. And if the board's comfortable with that change. And in the meantime, I'll talk to them about potentially maybe moving some employee parking to the outskirts of the lots to free up spaces closer to the buildings. So I'll work with them to get an application. It'll be a waiver because you've already approved the reduction in parking, but it will be a change from retail to restaurant. And then the Dollar Tree is the other retail tenant that will be going in there. And then I think we mentioned it at the last meeting, but we do have the sign applications for Old Navy, which is taking over Maurice's and Dress Barn for a new sign. And then Five Below, which is taking over the old Olympia Sports. And Terry Masterson, our economic development coordinators, had some conversations with the plaza owner, and they're currently working with somebody right now for the former movie theater.
Oh, great.
We're hoping it's a movie theater, but anything would be better than a vacant storefront. So stay tuned, I guess. They really wouldn't divulge any information to us at this time. So that's about all I have.
One quick question on that. Sorry, Charlie.
Yes.
Is the Shaw's Plaza, are they going to keep the sign that they have? Has there been any discussion about that? Or are they going to resubmit
Yes.
with a different type of sign?
No, so they're going to keep the sign, but what they're going to do is put in, actually, I just reviewed it this week, an LED light bar like the Pilot Travel sign, how they put the molding around the top and put the LED light bar to reflect down.
They're going to be above,
So-
pointed down?
It'll be above, pointed down onto the sign. Yeah. Yeah, the sign vendor just sent me a rough sketch this week and wanted to make sure it would meet the code, so it looks pretty good. I think it'll give a nice wash over the sign, and it'll take away that external illumination.
Right.
And they've like cut the wire, not really cut the wire, but they shut it off so nobody can turn it on, so, which is
Nice.
good.
And then, sorry, Wally, just one other question on that Mexican restaurant. I was wondering if, where it was a former grocery store, if there was, or actually it wasn't, that was the JCPenney down there. I was just wondering about a grease trap.
They'll have to install a grease trap,
Okay.
so they'll have to work with DPW and Board of Health on that.
You're all over it. Awesome. Thank you.
Where exactly is that Mexican restaurant or going to go? Is that over where JCPenney was?
Yes.
Okay, was there an auto store going there?
There's so it's, right now it's the auto store, Planet Fitness, Dollar Tree, Mexican restaurant would be on the end.
Before, okay.
And then, don't forget, there's the former catalog area in the back.
On the
I'm,
back,
I'm like
yeah.
drawing my plans here. The
And
former
I'm following that right along. Yes.
catalog area in the back, which will, under this plan, could be used really only for storage or office facility. So something very low traffic would
Yeah.
have to go in that final remaining space.
Okay.
And I think that, you know, if the board approves this change, we'll have to make that pretty clear, which
Yeah.
I've been doing with our conversations, but
Okay.
sometimes maybe I feel a little harsh, but I have to be. It kind of is what it is. There's only so many parking spaces, and I have to be concerned with the whole plaza. As much as I'd love to see the Mexican restaurant come, I think we just need to make sure it will work.
Yeah, sure. Right. Very good, thank you, Jean.
Good. Okay, Jean, do you want to go over the explanation on the waiver of site plan for 110
Sure.
Brookfield?
Yeah. So, as, for the record, Josh Roy, Cruise Control, is the applicant, and he is under contract to tow for the police department, and there was an accident on 131. So he got called to the accident. I asked him to text me to authorize Mr. Kabinski to act on his behalf. So he just sent a text saying, I, Josh Roy, authorize Chase Kabinski to represent myself in Cruise Control Transportation for the planning board hearing tonight, as I am tied up on an accident on scene. So just to note that for the record. And then, so what we have before us this evening is, this is the current Kabinski construction location that's been used for construction and a trucking operation for many years. And prior to that, in the 1950s, was actually a Pontiac dealership, which I had never known that until we
I didn't either.
started this review process. So over the course of time, it's really been used as a 24-hour operation, because they would do snow plowing, so that could be at any time of the day. And they also really were instrumental in the construction of I-84, which meant that trucks were going out at all times in the morning and in the middle of the night to get that job done. And as you know, construction jobs happen when they happen. I left the ZBA meeting last Wednesday and was stuck on Route 20 for a long time because it was one lane, because they need to work when it's cooler or when they can work. So it's really been a 24-hour operation. Josh Roy from Cruise Control Transportation has actually been under agreement and been running the business for about 1.5 years there now. And you might be familiar that he has a towing operation at Steve Brunel's facility on Route 20 right now. So since he's planning to purchase this property, he wanted to consolidate all of his operations in one location. So he applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals because it's a pre-existing non-conforming use. It's really an industrial location in a suburban residential district. So he made application to the Zoning Board of Appeals to see if they would grant the special permit to allow the tow trucks to be based there. That was approved Wednesday evening. We did, in full disclosure, have quite a few abutters in opposition, but the Zoning Board of Appeals did take testimony, and I had done a lot of research for them. And really, the nature of the operation would be very similar in kind to what it is right now. So they did not feel it would be more detrimental to the neighborhood. And Mr. Roy did agree to look at his employee policies to make sure if people are coming in at 3 a.m, they're not blaring their radios. And if you're standing out in the yard waiting for your truck to warm up, you know, shut your windows if you have your radio going, things like that. So in the end, they did grant the special permit. So they're here this evening for a waiver of site plan. Janae has the site plan up on the screen there. And it's a little bit larger. So you'll see that nothing's really changing on the site. There's the existing building and the existing parking lot. There were photographs, I believe, in the pack. Did you put the photos in the packet?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so there were photographs.
I
Oh,
don't know what's going on.
we have x-rays on the screen. So there were photographs in your packet. And if you went to the site, which probably all of you did stop by, or you're familiar with the site, you'll notice that the parking lot is part pavement, part hard pack, like millings, and some gravel around the outer edges. And these are where the trucks have been parked all along. There is a proposal to add a dumpster enclosure. And right now it's shown about midway in that back row of parking. However, the conservation agent believes that location would be in jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. So Mr. Roy is now proposing to move that dumpster enclosure closer to the salt shed, where the cars that are, and I should mention, where the cars that are stored or towed will be stored undercover in the salt shed, and that will be gated off. A gate will be added to that. So other than that, there are really no changes, so there was nothing to trigger full site plan approval. I asked the applicant to file for a waiver of site plan, and I would recommend approval. We did send it out to staff. No major concerns were noted, other than the potential of filing with the Conservation Commission if they were ever to resurface the parking lot. It's also important to note, in the back portion of the property, or actually the side from this view, if you went out there, you probably noticed there's a camper, there's lawn, there's plantings, everything. That is actually on the Kabinski property, and that's from the neighbor. There's been encroachment over time, and the Kabinskis have been aware of this, and I believe that's just going to continue, because they can't go any closer back that way. They would lose some beautiful large trees, so what you see on that end is really the limit of where that parking lot would be, and that was discussed at the ZBA meeting as well. So, as I noted, I don't have any concerns with the request, and staff members did not have concerns either. And I probably just made your whole presentation, but.
A lot easier for me.
Sorry, I tend to take over on occasion.
That was great.
And Mr. Kaminsky is here to present for Mr. Roy, if there's anything to add.
I think that was pretty complete. Does anyone have any questions? Dane, do you have any questions?
I was just curious if there's any lighting out there.
So we have lighting on the building, and there's no proposed lighting for the parking lot because of the neighbors and stuff, we felt.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the building has lighting facing down from the upper portion that comes on at night.
Right. Do you know, I know Gene, in your report, you said that as part of this application with adding the towing, they were looking to add 4 employees. Do you know what that is in addition to?
Yes, the total, I believe I had it on here, I had it on the ZBA. It'll be a total of, I believe, 15 employees total.
Do we know if there's adequate parking for 15 employee
Yeah.
vehicles in addition to larger equipment-style vehicles?
Actually, it is, because what they do, their operation plan is the employee comes in, warms up their truck, pulls their truck up, puts their car into that location, and then they're gone for the entire day, except
you
for the
go.
tow truck operators. And then when the tow truck operators are, there will be somebody manned there for the overnight shift, but the way that I understand sorry, between the fly and everything else, the way I understand the operation is that their employees are actually based off-site in the trucks, so they, at certain times of the day, they have to be on the highway, or they have to be at certain locations based on the contracts that they have with the police department to do towing. And the side, the back corner, the back right-hand corner, there will be room for employees to park over there. There were a lot of pieces of equipment that are being removed from the site, and the tire pile has been removed from the site. So that's kind of freeing up some additional space for parking as well. And then historically, even though it wouldn't be allowed now, there's parking space in the front of the building, and then there are spaces where people can pull up by the office if they needed to go into the office. And then they expect to impound no more than 5 to 6 cars on a weekly basis, and they only allow people to come pick up out of impound, I believe it was between the hours of 8 and 4.
8 and 4 until noon on Saturdays.
Yeah. So,
More traditional business hours and not
Right.
24/7.
Right.
Gotcha.
and because they'll only be storing 5 to 6 cars, it's not like there'll be a constant influx of people coming to pay their fee to get their car out of there.
Right. Are you comfortable that a vehicle can wiggle into that area in that salt shed? Or that they
Yeah.
had shown it? It looked kind of like a tight fit for a disabled vehicle to get in there.
Yeah, no, it appears that when I was out there, he kind of backed his trucks up to show me how that would work, and it appears
Wiggle
that
through.
they'll be able to get in there. The salt shed inside is actually pretty big. I think, how deep is that?
Oh, it's the
like
width
the whole
of the
depth of the
building.
building,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think 41 feet.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I was glad that the trash enclosure will be moving. I wasn't sure how accessible that would be if it's a front-end pickup
Right.
style. Would that have an enclosure, I assume?
It will have to have an enclosure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I had emailed Gene for the benefit of everybody else, asking about, a lot of these parking spaces on the plan are labeled as proposed, which obviously we're thinking about laying this out a little bit differently, so understood they're proposed spaces. But graphically, they're shown encroaching beyond the physical pavement limit that's out there today. And I just wanted to emphasize that we're not setting any precedent that you can expand operations as a result of increasing a use on an existing nonconformity, that all of the uses on site will be contained within existing impervious limits. Not exactly what's shown on this plan, but conversationally in an agreement, I just wanted to say that out loud.
Yes, and if they did, I think eventually they would like to come in and repave the lot and then, would clear out that vegetation. So the vegetation's kind of encroached over the parking, like if you were to take a shovel in some of those areas, there is
Sure.
pavement underneath there. So eventually they would like to do some of that, but they realize they would have to go to conservation to do that.
Right, right. And I know there's a question about jurisdiction and
Right.
limits. Understood. Nope, that's it for my questions. Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, very good, thank you. Wally?
Nope, all set, thank you.
Sue?
Also,
Okay. Do we have
Jeff?
any-
Jeff?
Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Oh, Charlie, you just, come on. I'm here. I'm just kidding. No questions.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so do we have a motion then to grant the waiver of site plan approval?
second.
Second, Mike. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Jeff? Jeff, good.
Yes.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much for coming in.
You're welcome. Bye.
Okay, let's see, what else do we have? You're all set with your report?
I'm all set.
Update, okay. Old and new business? Dane, do you have any old or new?
I do not.
Wally?
No, no,
Sue? Mike?
None.
Guess we can have a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. I'll catch on to this. Any old and new business, Jeff?
No business, done.
Okay, great. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
I just have one,
sure.
just quick reminder that Jeff and Wally will not be at August 9th meeting, and I need everybody else. So
I will be on video.
you'll be on video, yeah,
Okay, great.
yeah. So,
Very
just a
good.
reminder, we need all 5 of you.
Perfect. Okay, motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Jeff.